After World War I, the Red Scare took place, causing many Americans to fear the spread of communists in the United States, and thus, within the same years of 1919 and 1920, many activists a part of the Communist or Socialist Party were convicted for violating the Espionage Act of 1917 and Sedition Act of 1918 on the basis of their writings or statements. The Espionage Act of 1917 and Sedition Act of 1918 prevented civilians from interfering with military practices during wartime. Benjamin Gitlow, a member of the Socialist Party of America who had served in the New York State Assembly, was charged with criminal anarchy under the New York's Criminal Anarchy Law of 1902 for publishing in July 1919 a document called Left-Wing Manifesto in the Revolutionary Age, a newspaper for which he served as business manager. In Left-Wing Manifesto, he promoted the violent overthrow of the government. This violated the Espionage Act and Sedition Act. Then he was sent to New York State Court and was sentenced to 5 to 10 years of prison on February 11. He served 2 years before his motion to appeal was granted. The case of Gitlow v. New York took place from 1922 to 1925. The Chief Justice of this case was William Howard Taft. William Howard Taft was born on September 15, 1857. As a Republican, he was appointed to serve on the Superior Court of Cincinnati in 1887. In 1900, President McKinley appointed Taft as Governor-in-General of the Philippines. In 1904, President Theodore Roosevelt appointed Taft as Secretary of War in an effort to groom Taft into his hand-picked presidential successor. Popular support from a fellow Republican, Roosevelt led Taft to an easy victory in his 1908 bid for the presidency. He lost the next presidential election of 1912, so years later, in 1921, after the First World War, President Warren G. Harding appointed Taft as Chief of Justice of the United States. He served in this capacity until shortly before his death in 1930. In the court case, Walter H. Pollock argued in Gitlow's defense, a state may not prohibit speech unless it presents a clear and present danger to public interest. While W.J. Waterby argued for New York, it's within a state's power to prevent the disturbance of peace and regulate speech that may incite crime, and even if the threat of such action is not immediate. On June 8, 1925, the Supreme Court decided that freedoms of speech and press were fundamental personal rights, and liberties prohibited by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment from impairment by the states. In effect, the Supreme Court interpreted the 14th Amendment to say that the states could not abridge the freedoms of expression protected by the First Amendment. This decision began the development of the Incorporation Doctrine, the legal concept under which the Supreme Court has nationalized the Bill of Rights by making most of its provisions applicable to the states through the 14th Amendment. Civil liberties became more and more protected from states, as well as the federal government, throughout the 20th century. Accordingly, the power of the Supreme Court to rule cases involving civil liberties and state laws grew tremendously as well.